How long is it fair to expect American drivers and drivers around the world to pay that premium for this war?
As long as it takes. So Russia cannot, in fact, defeat Ukraine and move beyond Ukraine.
That was President Biden yesterday declaring Americans suffering from soaring prices will just have to wait it out. Meantime, the Supreme Court delivering a major blow to Biden's clean energy agenda, limiting the Environmental Protection Agency's ability to implement sweeping regulations without congressional approval. Joining me now, Tennessee Congressman Chuck Fleischmann. He's a member of the Appropriations Committee. Congressman, your reaction to all of it, because Biden can start by taking his little slippered foot off the chest of our energy sector.
Well, Joe Biden has, from the inception, with his rhetoric on the campaign, with his executive pen, done everything to thwart American energy production. And now it's come home to roost. We've had that horrible set of circumstances come up where now we need America's energy sector and America's natural resources that we can produce and compete and get our economy back online more than ever. And he's put himself in an untenable position. What he really needs to do is call a timeout, tell his left-wing minions just to shut up and sit down, call in American entrepreneurs and have a summit dealing with people who understand free market capitalism, who understand the abundance and appreciate the abundance of American energy, and get our country back on track. He just won't do it because he's so beholden to these ideologically rigid left-wingers who have hurt us for the past 2 years.
Liz Peek, jump in here. I just want to note, after that decision on from the High Court yesterday on limiting, it is really limiting a government agency's power to make its own rules. Broadly speaking, and immediately people on the left, well-known Democrats, were pulling their hair out about climate change, and that's the gravest threat to the world. President Obama tweeted this yesterday: "No challenge poses a greater threat to our future than a changing climate. Every day we're feeling the impact of climate change, and the Supreme Court's decision today is a major step backward." This from somebody who lives on the beach. So he's clearly worried about it.
I was just thinking about that, Dagan. It's so hypocritical. Congressman, I think the question is, I read this decision about the EPA as not only reining in the EPA, but all the alphabet agencies that are really governing America and putting Congress back in charge. I guess my question would be, is that how you read it? And is that something that Congress welcomes, or, is the feeling that Congress just cannot act on our major problems, and so this is just going to create greater dysfunction and sort of a big stall in terms of moving policy forward?
Well, I think you read the potential for the opinion absolutely correctly, but stay with me here now. Where did this authority begin from? It came from Congress. Congress originally should never, ever, ever have given up its authority to these outside executive branches. We have a great balance of power in our country, okay? We have our judiciary, the Supreme Court, the executive branch, which has enumerated constitutional powers, and we have the House and the Senate, the legislative branch. The American people ought to demand, regardless of their political persuasion, that Congress take back its constitutional power of oversight, of controlling these agencies and the like. These agencies, whether it's the EPA, the IRS, pick the letter and agency of the day, have grown all far too powerful because Congress didn't do its job. We ceded this authority. We lost this authority. Some of these agencies even have their own court system.
Right.
That's not the constitutional America that the American people deserve. We've got to get back to basics, and that means congressional control.
I'll cite two more agencies, or part of the bureaucratic swamp, which is what Kimberly Strassel calls it today, that the Chief Justice mentioned directly in writing for the majority: the Centers for Disease Control and the eviction ban overturned, and the OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration's vaccine mandate, again, court overturned. This is a shot across the bow to people working in these agencies and the current president, the current administration, and future presidents and administrations about government overreach by fiat, whether it's some bureaucrat or the commander-in-chief. I want to get your reaction, Congressman, to this. Biden flip-flopping again. He now says he will back ending the filibuster in order to legalize abortion. Listen to this.
We have to codify Roe v. Wade in the law, and the way to do that is to make sure the Congress votes to do that. And if the filibuster gets in the way, require an exception to the filibuster for this action to deal with the Supreme Court decision.
Well, Biden already having trouble from some members of his own party. Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema strong on their defense of keeping the filibuster in place, period. Congressman.
Well, I think the filibuster is very important because if we look constitutionally, the role of the Senate, and I serve in the House, is constitutionally different. Remember, United States senators originally were not popularly elected. They came from the state legislature. So the House has always been popularly elected. We amended our Constitution. I respect that. So now our senators and our House members are both popularly elected. But in order to curb the fervor, whether it's right or left, the Senate has always been a buffer against radical, rapid action in the House, either way. So I think the filibuster is critically important. It was frustrating to us when we were in the majority. I heard so many of our people saying we had the House, the Senate, the White House. Why couldn't we get things done? Well, it was because we upheld the filibuster. I think when you uphold the filibuster, you uphold the role of the Senate. Otherwise, you're going to have 100, in effect, quasi-House members acting under a very different set of rules and would be detrimental to this country. So I applaud Sinema and Manchin for keeping that in place. But basically, we've got to get back to constitutional basics in this country. We've gone so far. So I applaud the High Court for reining in the EPA and these other agencies. But Congress needs to step up and do more work, take back more power, use the power of the purse. And poor Joe Biden, I just don't know what we're going to do about him. I mean, he has gone from lost to super lost now. It's so sad.
Congressman Chuck Fleischmann, thank you for being here this morning. Have a very happy 4th.